Did you say I'll feel better smoking Philip Morris?
Yes, you'll feel better.
Even in the mall, if people are smoking, I try to get away from it.
The 1990s, a decade when freedom felt effortless. Kids raced bikes till the streetlights flickered on, mall arcades buzzed with laughter, and parents actually trusted the neighborhood to keep an eye out. It was a world of sleepovers, soda cans, and summer nights that never seemed to end. But look closer. Many of those everyday moments would be illegal today. From toys banned for safety, to snacks outlawed for sugar, to freedoms quietly rewritten by time, it's all gone. By the end of this video, you'll see just how much we lost when the carefree world of the 1990s disappeared, and why we still miss it. Smoking in restaurants and malls. Imagine stepping into a busy 1990s diner, the clink of silverware, sizzling bacon, and a soft haze of cigarette smoke curling above the booths. Back then, an ashtray sat next to your ketchup bottle, and no one thought twice about lighting up inside. Malls had smoking lounges, airports had designated puff zones, and the faint scent of tobacco lingered everywhere. Part of the era's texture. It wasn't rebellion, it was routine. People chatted over smoke-filled lunches, and kids waited patiently beside parents finishing a cigarette before shopping for sneakers. It was more than decoration, it was a statement of the time. But as the health warnings grew louder, the smoke slowly cleared, bans spread, habits changed, and a once normal sight vanished. And just when the air became cleaner, something far more colorful and controversial took its place. Riding in the back of pickup trucks. There was a certain magic to it. Wind rushing through your hair, laughter echoing under an open sky, and the steady rumble of the road beneath bare feet. In the 1990s America, kids and teens piled into the back of pickup trucks without a second thought. No seatbelts, no helmets, just trust and the thrill of motion. It felt like freedom itself, the kind you could feel in your chest as the highway blurred by. Parents waved from porches, not police lights. For families, it was just normal life, but today it feels strange. Then came stricter safety laws, rising liability fears, and the end of open-air joyrides. The beds that once carried laughter now carry lumber. And as the wind faded into memory, another forgotten freedom, this time found on playgrounds, was quietly fenced off next. Candy cigarettes for kids. They looked cool, they tasted sweet, and for a moment, every kid felt like a movie star. Candy cigarettes were the ultimate playground accessory of the 1990s. Tiny white sticks wrapped in paper, puffing sugar smoke that made you feel grown up. Corner stores sold them by the box, right next to lollipops and bubble gum, with names and packaging that mimicked real brands. This detail says more about the 90s than you might expect. Parents shrugged it off, thinking it was harmless fun, until critics pointed out what it really taught. As anti-smoking campaigns swept the nation, these innocent treats suddenly looked dangerous. Laws changed, names were altered, and one by one, they vanished from candy aisles. The sweet taste of pretend rebellion was gone, and what replaced it would make classrooms much louder next. Lawn darts, jarts, backyard games. Summer evenings in the 1990s had their own rhythm. The hum of sprinklers, the crackle of barbecue grills, and the sharp whistle of a metal dart slicing through the air. Lawn darts, or jarts, were the ultimate backyard competition, part skill, part danger. Families gathered barefoot on freshly cut grass, tossing heavy, steel-tipped darts toward plastic rings, laughing when someone barely missed. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more a game that flirted with risk in every throw. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. Injuries mounted, lawsuits followed, and before long, the Consumer Product Safety Commission stepped in, banning their sale for good. What was once a summer staple became a forbidden relic, and as those sharp-tipped toys disappeared, a far softer, but equally strange, childhood comfort was next in line to vanish. Toy guns that looked completely real. There was a strange thrill to it. The weight of plastic in your hand, the convincing metallic sheen, and the rush of pretending you were a hero or a villain in a backyard blockbuster. In the 1990s America, toy guns that looked startlingly real were everywhere. Lunchboxes, cereal boxes, and playground treasure piles. Kids mimed standoffs beneath elm trees while parents laughed, assuming pretend play and common sense would do the rest. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, one that blurred lines between make-believe and real danger. As real firearms became a heavier, more visible concern, laws and retailers stepped in. Orange tips, clear safety rules, and outright bans pushed those hyper-real toys into the attic. They didn't just go out of fashion, they vanished for safety. And if you think that felt sudden, wait until you hear about the corner fixture that used to watch us all without blinking. Coming up next, public payphones, without tracking cameras. There was something mysterious about them. Those metal booths standing alone under buzzing streetlights, offering a slice of privacy in a world before screens. In the 1990s America, payphones were lifelines. Coins clinking, the metallic scent of change, and voices echoing across miles. You could call anyone, anywhere. No ID, no GPS, no trace. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more. A symbol of anonymity, of trust, of a time when moments could vanish without data trails. Today, that freedom would be unthinkable. Cameras watch every corner, every call is logged, and payphones themselves have nearly disappeared. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. But the next thing on our list didn't just fade. It exploded out of existence for one shocking reason you won't believe was ever legal. Teachers using physical punishment in schools. It's almost impossible to imagine now. The sound of a ruler cracking across a desk, or the sharp sting of a wooden paddle used to teach respect. Yet in the 1990s America, corporal punishment was still seen as discipline, not cruelty. Some classrooms even had a dedicated paddle hanging on the wall, its presence alone enough to silence a room. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. Fear replaced respect, and bruises replaced lessons. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, a time when authority was rarely questioned, and tough love ruled the day. By the early 2000s, lawsuits, new policies, and public outrage finally ended the practice in most states. It faded away, but its memory still defines the decade. And what came next wasn't gentler. It just looked that way at first.
Homemade bake sales at school events.
The smell alone could pull you in. Trays of brownies, cookies, and cupcakes baked by proud parents and wrapped in foil or plastic wrap, each one carrying the warmth of a home kitchen. In the 1990s America, bake sales were more than fundraisers. They were small-town rituals, the taste of community itself. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more. Each dessert told a story of moms staying up late, of kids sneaking frosting, of neighborhoods that trusted each other completely. But trust has rules now. Health codes, allergy laws, and liability fears quietly erased those homemade tables from school gyms. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace, and the next thing, it didn't just disappear. It was banned so suddenly even parents didn't see it coming, leaving kids alone in cars for just a minute. It was a common sight in the 1990s America, a parent dashing into a store while kids waited in the back seat, windows cracked, radio softly playing. No one thought twice. It was just normal life. For families, it was just normal life. But today it feels strange. Back then, people trusted the neighborhood, believed in quick errands and harmless waits. The idea of danger seemed distant, almost cinematic. But one story changed everything. Headlines, new laws, and public outrage transformed that casual habit into a serious offense. What was once seen as responsible multitasking became neglect overnight. It faded away, but its memory still defines the decade. And the next thing on our list? It's another vanished freedom, one that lived in every driveway and roared through every summer afternoon. Drinking water, straight from the garden hose. There was nothing quite like it. A hot summer afternoon, grass clippings sticking to your legs, and that first icy burst from the garden hose hitting your tongue. In the 1990s, America, this wasn't strange. It was a childhood tradition. The faint metallic taste, the rubber smell, and the pure thrill of not needing a cup made it feel like freedom itself. It was more than decoration. It was a statement of the time. Parents didn't worry about bacteria or plastic chemicals, just dirt on your knees and the time you had to be home for dinner. But as health warnings grew and safety standards tightened, hose water became a forbidden sip. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next one on our list? It's something you definitely touched every day. But today, It might get your school shut down, rollerblading, or biking without helmets. There was a fearless energy to it, the wind in your hair, wheels humming against the pavement, and nothing between you and the open world but pure momentum. In the 1990s America, no one thought twice about rollerblading or biking without helmets. Scraped knees and bruises were badges of honor, proof that you'd been out living, not hiding. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, a time when freedom mattered more than protection. But as injuries rose and safety campaigns swept the nation, that carefree rush met its helmet-clad end. Today, bareheaded riders look almost rebellious, like ghosts of a wilder childhood. It faded away, but its memory still defines the decade. And the next thing? It wasn't about danger. It was about trust and how quickly we lost it. Drive-through liquor stores. It sounds impossible now, ordering a six-pack or a bottle of whiskey without even leaving your car. But in the 1990s America, drive-through liquor stores were a symbol of convenience, not controversy. Neon signs glowed, cash exchanged through the small windows, and no one blinked an eye. To understand the 90s, you can't ignore this curious feature. It was efficiency with a wink, the era's belief that everything could be faster, easier, more fun. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more, a reflection of the trust and looseness that defined the decade. But as DUI laws tightened and liability fears grew, those sliding windows started closing for good. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next thing, it made teenagers legends, until the law caught up with them. Gas stations selling cigarettes to teenagers. It happened quietly, almost casually. A teenager filling up a car, sliding a few extra dollars across the counter, and walking out with a pack of cigarettes. No questions asked. In the 1990s, America, this was normal. Clerks barely glanced at IDs, and those glowing Marlboro signs were practically invitations. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. It wasn't rebellion, it was accessibility. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, one where trust and temptation shared the same counter space. As campaigns against teen smoking gained momentum, sting operations and strict laws ended the easy exchanges overnight. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. But the next thing on our list, it wasn't sold, it was experienced. Right in the middle of every grocery aisle in America. Car ashtrays and built-in cigarette lighters. They were as common as seatbelts. Little chrome circles glowing orange, waiting for a flick of a thumb and a trail of smoke curling through the cabin. In the 1990s America, cars weren't just vehicles. They were personal lounges on wheels. The smell of tobacco mixed with leather, the faint buzz of the lighter coil, and the quiet rhythm of the road made smoking feel almost elegant. It was more than decoration. It was a statement of the time. Back then, every dashboard had an ashtray, and every driver had the choice to use it. But as smoke-free culture took over, automakers quietly removed them, turning those glowing circles into USB ports and empty panels. It faded away, but its memory still defines the decade. And the next thing? It wasn't hidden inside the car. It was proudly strapped to the roof, breaking every rule we have today. Metal playground slides and rusty monkey bars. They shimmered under the sun like polished mirrors, until you touched them. Every 1990s playground had that silver slide that could scorch the back of your legs by noon, and monkey bars that squeaked with rust into adventure. Kids didn't care. Those burns and blisters were proof of bravery. For families, it was just normal life, but today it feels strange. Back then, playgrounds weren't soft. They were tests of courage, scraped knees and balance. Safety mats? Optional. Parental panic? Rare. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. As safety codes tightened and plastic replaced metal, those sun-scorched slides disappeared one by one. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next thing? It didn't burn your skin, but it definitely tested your lungs. VHS rental stores with uncensored movie covers. You could feel it the moment you walked in. That dim, buzzing hum of fluorescent lights, the smell of old carpet, and shelves lined with VHS tapes that showed everything. In the 1990s America, movie rental stores were sacred ground. Kids wandered the aisles wide-eyed, brushing past horror covers splashed with blood and steamy rom-com posters that no one thought to hide. This detail, says more about the 90s than you might expect. A time before parental filters, when curiosity was part of growing up. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more. As digital age arrived, censorship tightened, ratings sharpened, and those bold covers quietly disappeared behind algorithms and warning labels. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next thing? It wasn't about movies. It was about music, and what we used to play out loud without shame. Disposable cameras in school hallways. Click, wind, flash. That was the soundtrack of the 1990s school hallway. Moments frozen forever by those little plastic disposable cameras everyone carried in their backpacks. Friends posing by lockers, inside jokes caught mid-laugh, teachers unaware they were part of the background. It was freedom, unfiltered, unedited, unrepeatable. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more. No filters, no instant deletes, no tracking. Just film, waiting to be developed. Surprises, tucked into every roll. If you remember sneaking one of these into class, hit that subscribe, because the memories are about to get even sharper. But as privacy rules tightened and digital cameras took over, those innocent flashes became liabilities. Schools banned them, calling them distractions and privacy risks. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next thing, it didn't capture memories. It broadcasted them live before anyone knew how dangerous that could be.
Fireworks sold at every corner stand.
There was magic in the air. Cardboard boxes stacked under striped tents, the smell of gunpowder in summer, and hand-painted signs shouting "Buy one, get one free." In the 1990s America, fireworks weren't a luxury. They were a neighborhood tradition.
Now stock up on all the fireworks you need for the 4th of July. Vendors open their doors.
Every kid knew the sound of sparklers sizzling and bottle rockets hissing into the sky. To understand the 90s, you can't ignore this curious feature. A time when backyard celebrations burned brighter and louder. No permits required. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. Injuries, fires, and late-night chaos slowly turned the fun into fear. States cracked down, bans spread, and the corner stands vanished like smoke after a spark. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next thing? It didn't light up the sky, but it definitely made a scene in the air, leaving front doors unlocked all day. It sounds almost reckless now, but in 1990s America, many families did it without a second thought. The front door stayed open, the screen door creaked in the breeze, and neighbors came and went with a quick knock and a smile. It wasn't about security, it was about trust. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more. A quiet belief that the world outside wasn't something to fear. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, a time when community felt stronger than caution. But as news cycles grew louder and fear crept into suburbs, locks clicked, cameras blinked, and open doors became relics of another mindset. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next thing? It didn't stay open. It stayed on the move, breaking every safety rule we know today. Birthday parties with live clowns and no liability rules. You could hear them before you saw them. Squeaky shoes, balloon animals, and that mix of laughter and mild terror only a 1990s clown could create. Back then, birthday parties weren't polished productions. They were chaotic, colorful, and completely unsupervised. Clowns juggled fire, rode unicycles, and sometimes brought real animals, all without a single waiver or liability form in sight. It was more than decoration. It was a statement of the time. Parents filmed on camcorders, kids screamed with joy and sometimes fear, and everyone assumed it was harmless fun. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. As lawsuits rose and fears about stranger entertainers spread, the clowns disappeared, replaced by inflatable castles and corporate mascots. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next thing? It wasn't about laughter. It was about flight and the freedom we've lost since. Kids, trading lunches without allergy checks. It happened every day. Cafeteria trays sliding, whispers turning into trades. I'll swap my peanut butter and jelly for your pudding cup. In the 1990s America, lunch tables were miniature economies built on trust, curiosity, and a little chaos. No labels, no allergy warnings, no permission slips. Just kids being kids. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, It was much more, a reflection of a world that hadn't yet learned to fear the small print. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, when peanuts weren't a threat, and freedom tasted like someone else's sandwich. But times changed. Allergy awareness grew, lawsuits followed, and schools locked down the lunchtime marketplace. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. And the next thing? It wasn't traded. It was earned through something that today would never even be allowed.
TV ads for cigarettes or alcohol during cartoons.
It sounds impossible now. Cartoon breaks interrupted by cowboys lighting cigarettes or animated bears singing beer jingles. Yet in the 1990s America, it happened right between cereal ads and toy commercials. Kids soaked it in without realizing they were being sold adulthood in disguise. To understand the 90s, you can't ignore this curious feature, a time when innocence and influence shared the same screen. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. Public outrage grew, advocacy groups pushed back, and lawmakers finally pulled the plug. By the early 2000s, the smoke cleared, literally. Now it's hard to believe we ever thought it was ordinary. And the next thing? It didn't advertise vices. It unleashed horsepower, and every kid dreamed of having one in their driveway.
Parents filming everything with giant camcorders.
They were heavy, clunky, and impossible to ignore. Those shoulder-mounted camcorders that turned every parent into a part-time filmmaker. In the 1990s America, no birthday, school play, or backyard barbecue escaped the lens. The low hum of the tape spinning, the shaky zoom-ins, and the flash of the red REC light captured life exactly as it was. Unfiltered and awkwardly beautiful. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more a time capsule for families who didn't realize they were recording history. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, when memories were physical and every mistake stayed on tape. Then came smartphones, edits, and filters that polished away the raw truth. It didn't vanish overnight. It just stopped feeling normal. And the next thing? It wasn't filmed, it was lived, dangerously and loud. Public phone books listing full home addresses. It's almost eerie to think about now. Thick yellow books sitting in every phone booth, library and doorstep, packed with names, numbers, and complete home addresses for anyone to read. In the 1990s America, it wasn't a privacy risk. It was just how you found people. Neighbors, classmates, even your teacher, all printed on paper, free to flip through. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more. A quiet symbol of trust in a less suspicious world. Back then, anonymity wasn't protection. It was rare. But as identity theft, scams, and digital fear took over, those phone books vanished from doorsteps and memories alike. You won't find them anymore. Just stories from those who remember. And the next thing, it wasn't printed. It was blasted across the airwaves, unfiltered and unstoppable. Buying chemistry or BB gun kits in toy stores. There was a thrill to the aisle. Cardboard boxes with beakers and powders, or shiny little BB guns tucked between board games and model kits, promising secret experiments and backyard adventures. In the 1990s America, these kits were rites of passage, kids mixing chemical concoctions under parental eye, teenagers honing aim on tin cans, and parents smiling at hobbies that seemed harmlessly educational. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more, a strange blend of curiosity, trust, and a loose idea of risk that felt oddly formative. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. Accidents, misuse, and the growing sense that some toys were too easily turned into real danger. Laws, age limits, and stricter retail rules quietly pushed them off mainstream shelves. It's gone now, buried under new rules and forgotten freedoms. And coming up next, a convenience that once reeked of normal, but soon filled the skies with controversy.
Smoking sections on airplanes and buses.
Aviation Minister Peter Morris says the government will legislate for a smoking ban.
It's almost surreal to picture. Sealed cabins full of passengers, some lighting cigarettes as the no smoking light blinked quietly above them. In the 1990s, America, the world still ran on smoke intolerance. Airplanes had ashtrays built right into the armrests, and long-distance buses carried that unmistakable haze that clung to the curtains. For families, it was just normal life. But today, it feels strange. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more, a reminder of how comfort once outweighed caution. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. headaches, coughing fits, and recycled air heavy with nicotine. By the late 90s, the bans arrived, and clean air finally won. It slipped away slowly until no one noticed it was gone. And the next thing, it didn't fill the air. It filled our walls with colors that would never survive today. Metal lunchboxes with cartoon violence prints. They clanged open like treasure chests. Shiny metal boxes, painted with superheroes throwing punches. Laser battles blazing across the lid, or cartoon villains mid-explosion. In the 1990s, America, every kid carried one proudly, a badge of fandom and identity. To understand the 90s, you can't ignore this curious feature, when even lunch felt like a comic book come to life. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more art, attitude, and imagination packed between sandwiches and juice boxes. But as schools cracked down on violent imagery, those bold designs vanished, replaced by soft plastic and neutral colors. The clang of metal gave way to silence. Now, it's hard to believe we ever thought it was ordinary. And the next thing? It wasn't about heroes and villains. It was about real rebellion, worn proudly on the body.
Music lyrics released before parental advisory labels.
There was a time when music spoke freely. No stickers, no warnings, no blurred-out words. In the 1990s America, albums hit the shelves raw and unfiltered, lyrics blasting through speakers that made parents cringe and teens feel alive. It was more than decoration. It was a statement of the time. Bands and rappers pushed boundaries, testing how far freedom of expression could go before someone drew a line. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. Public debates raged on talk shows. Politicians wagged fingers, and soon the black and white parental advisory label became both a warning and a badge of honor. What was once everywhere has almost vanished without a trace. The era when songs didn't ask for permission to speak their truth. And the next thing? It wasn't heard. It was seen, flashing from every living room screen. School field trips without permission slips. There was a time when adventure didn't need a parent's signature. Teachers would load kids onto yellow buses, waving to the office clerk and heading straight to museums, parks, or local factories. No forms, no liability warnings, just trust. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, a world that believed in freedom over fear. At first glance, it looked practical. In reality, it was much more, a symbol of how casually schools once treated risk and responsibility. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. One wrong turn, a minor accident, or even a missed head count could send parents into panic. By the 2000s, the carefree system vanished under stacks of paperwork. And the next thing, it wasn't about where kids went. It was about what they were suddenly allowed to do. Letting strangers babysit or carpool without background checks. It sounds reckless now, but in 1990s America it was completely normal. Neighbors, coworkers, or even a friend of a friend could watch your kids or drive them to school without a second thought. There were no apps, no ID verifications, no safety databases, just trust, a handshake, and maybe a phone number on a notepad. For families, it was just normal life. But today, it feels strange. Behind the style was a hidden story about the decade itself, a time when communities ran on faith instead of fear. The charm was obvious, but so were the problems. Stories of broken trust and hidden dangers slowly changed everything. Today, background checks, cameras, and apps rule what used to be a simple favor between neighbors. It faded away, but its memory still defines the decade. The world we knew in the 1990s feels both distant and familiar, a time of freedom, risk, and innocence that's nearly vanished today. But those moments still live in our memories, reminding us how fast normal can change. Subscribe for more deep dives into the eras that shaped who we are.